Hello, everyone. If I could have your attention, please. Thank you for joining us today to celebrate the life and accomplishments of your native son, Rocky Marciano. My name is Robert Cintron. In my day job, I serve as the acting district manager for the Southeast New England District, United States Postal Service. Today, I will serve as your Master of Ceremonies. I am proud to be here to represent our district and proud to lead one of the finest postal teams in the nation. It's quite an honor to be here today. Many of them are volunteering their time here today along with members of the Postal Customer Council, so if you have any questions or an urgent matter, please see those folks wearing badges marked committee or volunteer. You have already enjoyed the sounds of the Brockton firefighters' pipes and dreams. You will hear more from them throughout the program today. Before we get started, I would like to welcome some of our guests here today. We are pleased to have many dignitaries with us, not the least of which are members of the family of Rocky Marciano. Ladies and gentlemen, I will ask that you hold your applause until all special guests are acknowledged. May we extend our warmest welcome to Rocky's son, Rocky Jr., and to his brothers, Lou and Peter, along with his wife, Linda, to his sisters, Connie Langway, Betty, and her husband, Armin Colombo, and to Alice, her husband, Vincent Pereira. We also want to welcome all of the nieces, nephews, and other extended family joining us here today. Judging by our RSVPs, it seems as though everyone in Brockton is a member or friend of the Marciano family. Let us begin today's program by welcoming the Brockton Police Department and Brockton Fire Department Honor Guards, who will present the colors today. They will be followed by the members of our craft unions, Mark Casari, John Principe from the American Postal Workers Union, Lori Edelman from the National Postal Mail Handlers Union, and Sean O'Malley from the National Association of Letter Carriers, leading the Pledge of Allegiance. Present the colors.
Part-time. Left. Freeze that. Huh. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming in the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh,
I'd like to thank Yara Cardosa. That was wonderful. And let me introduce Father Larry Wetterholm, a personal friend of Rocky, to lead us in the invocation.
I will say hello to everybody. I know many of you, I'm sure. The biblical psalmist says, "This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad." And I will add, congratulations to the Marciano family, relatives, and friends on this memorable occasion. A few weeks ago, I received a call from Peter Marciano telling me of an event honoring his late brother Rocky, and that he and his family would be elated if I would give the invocation at the festivities. I was quick to accept the request and indeed honored. My thoughts carried me back so many years when Rocky and I were teammates and oftentimes rivals in teenage years. Baseball it was, Sons of the American Legion, high school, Junior Legion, CYO, City League. What a wonderful era. And so our invocation. Dear Lord, give to all of us here the necessary gift of perseverance, for it is indispensable in life today. For so often the road of life is long and uphill, and one becomes most wearisome. So often we want to give up on things we must do. Oh Lord, help us to press toward our goal. Give us daily strength to keep on going through thick or thin, for tomorrow may be the answer. Perhaps around the next bend on the road, the goal will be reached. On this festive day, we honor the epitome of perseverance, our own Rocky Marciano, who did the impossible by spurning the shoe factories and embarking on a career which ended at the peak of the boxing world. Lord, help us all never to give up doing what is right for us and for others. Almighty God, help us to persevere in our hardships so that we become more like Jesus the Christ, the man for others. Rather than despair, may we all put on hope. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Father Wetterholm. I am pleased to introduce our next speaker, a man whom I have much admiration and respect. Mr. Tim Haney joined the Postal Service in 1977 as a clerk in Pasadena, Maryland, and began his management career as a supervisor of delivery collection. Mr. Haney has in-depth operations experience, having served as a plant manager in 7 different plants. He was the senior plant manager in Maryfield, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. Prior to his current position, Tim served for more than 4 years as a district manager of the highly visible Capital District, which serves the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. He was named Vice President, Area Operations for the Northeast area in May 2007, and is a senior postal official in an area that encompasses all of New England and upstate New York. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our Area Vice President, Tim Haney.
Thanks, Robert. And let me add my own personal welcome to the Honorable Congressman Stephen Lynch, our Massachusetts State Senator Tom Kennedy, a very special guest, Governor Catherine C. Tubin, a member of the Postal Service Board of Governors who has close connections to the Brockton area and has many of her family members with her today and friends, and to the family members of the Rocky Marciano family. I greatly have an honor to be here today, and I welcome all of you today to join into these festivities. As Robert said, my name is Tim Haney, and I am the Area Vice President for the Northeast area and have 6 New England states as well as the upstate New York. And I'm proud of the position, not because of the title, but because I had a team of more than 58,000 of the most professional and dedicated postal employees in the country. These employees have connections daily with you, your family, and your businesses. As we hear from friends and family members of the person we're here to honor today, you will hear a lot about dedication, a lot about perseverance, because these qualities are some of the characteristics of Rocky Marciano, the young man from Brockton, Massachusetts, who defied the odds to become the world's only undefeated heavyweight champion. When I first learned about this bill, it was introduced by Congressman Lynch, and we got to give him a round of applause today because we wouldn't be here without Congressman Lynch. It takes someone to have a vision about what's important to a community, a city, a town, and Congressman Lynch grabbed a hold of it and gave the honor. So again, I thank you very much from the Postal Service and I'm sure from the town. But I was excited when I got this opportunity, and I jumped right up and said, hey, I want to be there. I don't go to all of them, but this was one I wanted to go to. I was born on the west side of Baltimore. My father was a railroad mechanic, and every night he would come home. If we were lucky, we'd get a chance to go to the YMCA. My dad was a wrestler and a boxer into his 30s. And so as kids, we would go and had indoor track. I would sit on top of the indoor track, and I'd look down, and I'd see the boxing ring in the middle, I'd see the wrestling mat on the left, and I'd see the gymnastics on the right. You know, it's something that maybe we should be looking at into the future of the country, because that ability to go to a YMCA was great. And I find out that Rocky Marciano did a lot of his working out here from Charles at the local YMCA. The YMCA was an area where I developed my disciplines in life, and I went forward to wrestle in high school and college. So as a young boy, when we'd be riding back and forth or we'd be at the gym, Rocky Marciano was one of my dad's favorites, and he often talked about his matches and his untiring efforts. And it's something, again, to be honored to be here today. It takes courage to be one-on-one in a boxing ring. It takes dedication. It takes that perseverance to want to win, to be so good that you continue to win and make a living at it. Well, postal employees know a lot about perseverance and dedication. It is the dedication of our postal employees that allows the Postal Service to continue to provide the American public universal service despite the challenges of war or hurricanes or floods or the tough winter weather that you have in the Northeast, and now a weakening economy. It is what enables us to provide our customers with the highest level of service in the history of the Postal Service now. And it is that same determination that will allow us to continue to carry the tradition of binding our country together through whatever punches life has to throw at us. Like Rocky, the U.S. Postal Service refuses to lose. Many people here today knew Rocky as a brother or an uncle or a friend. Others knew him through the media stories that followed the stunning career. I had the privilege of getting to know him through a more personal medium, one that expresses heartfelt greetings from the man himself, and one that we are particularly fond of at the Postal Service, and that's the power of the letter. Rocky's sister, Kanji, as he fondly called her, was gracious enough to share a few letters written by Rocky when he served in the U.S. Army. A 19-year-old Rocky Marciano expressed concern for his family's well-being, shared the highs and the lows of romance and teenage angst, and he asked his sister to watch over his younger brother. How else would we know, Peter, that you used to like to hang on to the bumpers of the cars and trucks that traveled through the Brockton and hitch a ride? That happened, huh? It was your He also expressed concern, as anybody would, of his parents' well-being, rejoiced the news of births and marriages, and mourned the loss of loved ones. It is through these and other letters like these that we are able to come to know a person through their own words, whether they come from relatives or family in a letter, or whether they come from a president or past presidents or just common people who send letters. There's truly nothing like holding the written word of someone who we admire, someone we have never had the privilege to know, yet we wish we had. I humbly submit to you that there simply is no greater power than that of the written word, no more emotional correspondence than the power of the personal written letter. But today we're here because 10 years ago, the United States Postal Service issued a Rocky Marciano stamp. I met Rocky Jr., and he's got the stamp proudly on his lapel, and was telling me how much it meant to him, and this second event means to him. And I'm really glad that the Postal Service was able to recognize Rocky Marciano on a stamp when we did celebrate the century. It was only fitting tribute, and it is a fitting tribute today to rename the Brockton Post Office the Rocky Marciano Post Office Building. We thank Congressman Lynch again for introducing this bill that led us to this day. And without any further delay, it is my great honor to bring our next speaker to the podium. Governor Catherine C. Tobin. In August of 2006, President George W. Bush appointed her to the Postal Service's Board of Governors. She serves as chairman of the Audit and Finance Committee, is a member of the Compensation and Management Resources Committee and the Communications Subcommittee. She hails from Hartsdale, New York, is a research and management consultant specializing in the high technical industry. And she has led research teams at the Hewlett-Packard and at Catalyst, a nonprofit research and advisory organization devoted to the advancement of women in business. As a consultant, she has conducted custom research for the leadership of corporations as varied as IBM and USA Today. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Catherine C. Tobin, Governor for the Postal Service.
Thank you, Tim, for your kind introduction. Hello, Brockton. Greetings from New York. Greetings from New York and from the Board of Governors of the U.S. Postal Service. It's a pleasure and a joy to be back here in Brockton for this wonderful event. I feel as if I'm home. My sister and brother-in-law, Alice and Alan Zaff, live just one town over in Northeaston. And my Aunt Shirley and 5 of my cousins, the Morrissey clan, are proud Brocktonians. Another proud member of that clan is State Senator Michael Morrissey, whom I'm sure many of you know. So I'm pleased to be here. I'm pleased to meet the Marciano family today, and I'm proud as can be that the Postal Service has this opportunity to honor your father, your brother. It seems very fitting to me that we are renaming the post office for Rocky Marciano, who used an old mail sack stuffed and hung in his backyard to first practice those legendary power punches of his. Those punches led to his being the only heavyweight champion to ever complete his professional career without a loss. The only time Rocky was ever licked was when his image was put on a U.S. postage stamp in May 1999. It was part of our Celebrate the Century series. His image, with both hands held high above his head in victory, joined 14 others on that stamped sheet in honor of significant events in the 1950s in our country. From humble beginnings to the undefeated heavyweight champion of the world, Rocky Marciano exemplified, as others have said earlier today, the dignity, the honesty, and the courage that distinguish truly great athletes from those who are just great at their craft. Of course, he had natural abilities. He was strong and powerful. Everyone knew he could throw a punch. He could also take one. The man was tough. He had willpower. He trained himself relentlessly. Many of us smile when we hear nowadays of fighters who go off to training camp a few months before a fight. Not Rocky. He trained every day, all year. Rocky Marciano had the heart of a fighter, but his heart was much bigger than that. He even defeated his opponents, and they only had good things to say about his character. Jersey Joe Walcott, who lost his title to Rocky, said, "He was a man of courage inside the ring. Outside, he was kind and gentle." In a 1955 Collier's interview, Rocky said, and I think this is something all of us can think about as we go forward today, Rocky said, "The influence that you have, that you can use for good, without being a crusader, goes so far beyond what you think that it sometimes frightens you." Rocky gave not only hope and inspiration to generations of youngsters from blue-collar beginnings, he also visited leper colonies, polio wards, and there he found his fighting spirit mirrored in patients' eyes. He said those visits made him realize what being a champion of the world was really all about. Rocky Marciano's life was an only in America story that inspires us all to believe and achieve. And so I'm honored to be here at the naming of the U.S. Post Office for Rocky Marciano, the Brockton Blockbuster. But before I finish, I'd like to remind you that the Postal Service has a couple of its own blockbusters coming to you in the next few weeks. On May 1st, we deliver the 1-2 punch of the beautiful wedding rings and cake stamps. They're really knockouts. The artwork is fantastic. And then our stamp program is a great way to reach so many different audiences. You should know that too. Many people have collected the Rocky Marciano Brockton Blockbuster stamp in 1999. We're trying to reach a new generation with another blockbuster stamp. You may have heard about the Simpson stamps. These stamps, eagerly awaited by youngsters across the nation and around the world, and I dare say awaited by my husband as well, go on sale May 7th. So look for the Simpson stamps. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to share this day with you, Brockton. Service is the core of our business, and I'm sure that you will enjoy a great customer experience when you walk through the doors of the newly renamed Rocky Marciano Post Office. Congratulations, Brockton. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you, Governor Tobin. We are mindful of the fact that we are guests in your great community, and we are very happy to have the leader of this fine city to welcome us all today. James Harrington is serving his second year as mayor of Brockton. Having first been elected in 2005 and re-elected in 2007, he served on the city council for 16 years and was elected by his colleagues to serve as council president on 3 separate occasions. Mayor Harrington, like Rocky, is known for making tough decisions and getting the job done. He and his wife Karen have lived in Brockton since 1972, and he is committed to the prosperity and vitalization of the city of Brockton. Ladies and gentlemen, Mayor James Harrington.
Thank you very much. Let me officially welcome all of you to the City of Champions in Brockton, Massachusetts. Now, this isn't a title that we just made up on our own. Actually, the legislature in the state of Massachusetts has officially recognized us as a city of champions. And many times when we hear that thing, we think about our athletes, and we think about Rocky and Marvin and all the great champions that come out of the city. But what I really think it means is it's really a lot to do with the character, the persistence, the determination, and the work ethic of people like Rocky Marciano that make this city the great city that it is and the great city it'll always be. Let me just say that, recently I read in the Boston Globe that this process started in City Hall and went to Congress and then on to the president's desk. Well, the truth be told, that's not the truth. What really happened, when many great things happen in this city, it started at George's Cafe up on Belmont Street. When my very good friend Charlie Tattaglia called me in, and when Charlie calls you in, you're an elected official in the city, you go and you talk to him. So I went to see Charlie, and Charlie said, Mayor, he said, we're thinking about how great it would be to name the post office after the post office on Commercial Street after Rocky. And I thought, wait, a great idea. This is the place where the new wave of immigrants come. This is where they come to get their communications from back home or to send packages. And what a great tradition it will be now that they'll know we'll be able to pass on who Rocky Marciano was and all the great work ethic and determination that he had. So as soon as Charlie talked to me about that, the first thing that came to mind is, let's call Congressman Lynch. Because when you call Congressman Lynch and you ask him to get something done, he gets it done. And in this case, he came through with flying colors. Congressman Lynch, we thank you so much. He's not exactly a sit back and take it as it comes Democrat, and to get the Republican President Bush to sign this, he thinks we really deserves a congratulations. Good job, Congressman Lynch. But I really just want to say thank you all for being here today. It's an honor to be here, and I want to give a special welcome to the Marciano family, who over my years, as I've got to know them, are just such a great family, and they're such a close family, and I'm really proud to be able to do this. And in closing, I want to say one thing. In spite of all you hear, I guarantee you the Rocky Marciano statue will be in Brockton. Thank you very much. God bless you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before we ask the family to share their memories of their beloved Rocky, the Brockton firefighters, pipes and drums would like to play a tribute to Rocky. Thank you for that movie rendition. Our next speaker has more memories and stories about Rocky than probably anyone on stage. Though he was sometimes mischievous, causing Rocky to express concern over his younger brother, Peter Marciano, has been devoted to the memory and to the life of Rocky. Join us today. Please welcome Peter Marciano.
Thank you so much, Congressman Lynch, Mayor, the committee, who did just a wonderful, wonderful job of putting this day together. Just awesome. On behalf of the Marciano family, I first of all want to welcome you, and I want to thank you for sharing with us this beautiful, beautiful day. And if Ma and Pa could only be here to see the name on this building, how proud they would be. But we're here today to honor Rocky Marciano. And Rocky Marciano was a great boxer and a great champ. As a professional, as you all know, it's been spoken of before, he had 49 fights. He won every single one of them, 43 by knockout. It's what we call a perfect record. And to have a perfect record, in my opinion, and I've always believed that this record belongs among the very greatest in all of sport. It really does. Sometimes he gets credit for it, sometimes he doesn't. But you know, when Rocky first started boxing, it wasn't a piece of cake. A lot of people in the fight game didn't really think that he had what it took to be a great fighter. They kind of thought he was maybe undersized to be a heavyweight. Some people just didn't think he had all of the tools to be a great boxer. But you know, the one thing you can never measure, it's what you call determination. I guess you'd call it this thing right here. And case in point, September 23rd, 1952, Municipal Stadium in Philadelphia. Rocky Marciano's fighting for the heavyweight championship of the world. And everything, almost everything, that could go wrong went wrong that day. That night, I should say. First of all, in the first round, he was knocked down to the canvas, first time in his career. But you know Rocky's going to get up. He was up at the count of 4. And then later in the fight, there was a lot of confusion in his corner. We didn't know what was going on. I was an 11-year-old kid brother sitting at ringside, and I didn't know what was going on. Lo and behold, what happened was he had a cut on top of his head, and they put some medication in there, and it kind of dripped into his eyes. Well, for 4 rounds, Rocky fought blind. A lesser man would have quit. A lesser man, Rocky didn't understand that word quit. He didn't know that. It's not in his vocabulary. And for 4 rounds, Rocky pursued his opponent. A great fighter, a great boxer, a great champ, Jersey Joe Walcott. And finally, in the 13th round, he knew what he had to do to become the heavyweight champion of the world. He had to knock his opponent out. You see, in those days, they used to fight 15 rounds, no longer 12 like they do today. So in the 13th round, Walcott is against the ropes, and he's about to lead with a right, and Rocky beats him to the punch. A punch, they say, only traveled 6 to 8 inches, and it hit him just in the perfect spot. And Walcott went down, and the referee counted 7, 8, 9, 10. You're out. Now, at this moment, again, I was sitting at ringside, and something happened, and it was kind of an emotional thing, and I'd like to share it with you. Out of Rocky's corner was a flash. It was Ali Colombo, Rocky's best friend, Rocky's trainer, our next-door neighbor. And he shot into the ring, and he and Rocky embraced. Remember that, Mike? And they embraced, and they said something to each other. No one ever really knew what they said, but I have a feeling that it might have been something like, "We made it, buddy. 2 guys from Brockton, and we made it to the top." And then the ring announcer over the microphone said, "And the winner, by knockout in the 13th round, in the new heavyweight champion of the world, Rocky Marciano." And at that point in time, Rocky put both of his arms over his head, and I have a really good feeling, Mr. Mayor, that in the not too distant future, we're going to have a statue up at Rocky Marciano Stadium with the same pose that he had the night he won the heavyweight championship of the world. Again, I want to thank everybody out there. This is a very special day, and it's so great to have all of my friends out there. Thank you so much for being here with us, and we love you all.
While few can claim the name of heavyweight champion of the world, but our next guest can do so with pride. He flew here from Florida to be here today in his dad's name and to represent his father's honor. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Rocky Marciano Jr.
Thank you all for coming out today. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you came out to celebrate this great honor with myself and my family. As it's been said up here, 10 years ago, the post office put out a Rocky Marciano postage stamp. At that time, that was a boyhood dream that came true for me. I was probably 12 or 13 years old, and I thought, gee, it would be great to have my father on a stamp. And I even tried contacting the post office as a teenager and asking what I needed to do. They said, oh, you got to get a petition going and send in so many thousand names, and we'll send it off to the committee. And I tried that, and nothing really came of it. And I thought, well, I'll think about it. We'll do it again sometime. But then the post office came to me and my Uncle Pete and to the family and said, we want to honor Rocky. We want to honor him in a special way with the Celebrate the Century. And at that point, I thought to myself, you know what? I'm glad it didn't happen when I was 12 or 13, because this was a much more special occasion, being part of something that the post office was doing that was going to celebrate the whole century and celebrate the 1950s, because I always felt that the 1950s was the perfect time for my father to be champion. That was a golden age of this country. Sometimes my father, I would understand, he would joke and say, geez, I came around too soon. Look at what these guys are making now. But I see it differently. He fought in the best time of this country, and you know what? He was on top during that time. Now here we are, 10 years later. The post office has stepped up again to the plate, and they want to honor my father with a building. They want to name the post office the Rocky Marciano Post Office. I'm like, geez, we're getting a building now? This is incredible. I said, I don't even know what to think. I had sleepless nights when I first heard about it. And I thought, gee, what a great honor for myself, for my father, for the family, but also for the city of Brockton. The city of Brockton and the Marciano family has always had a unique relationship. I know I'm from South Florida. I haven't experienced it as much as my family has, as the people of Brockton have, but I know when I come from South Florida and I come to visit, or I come up for an occasion such as this, I feel like I'm coming home. There's roots here. There's history here. There are things here that I didn't get in South Florida. My father got away from the snow. I got to have the beaches, but I didn't get to have the history. You people are lucky for that. That's why I believe it's a part of Brockton that is also being honored during this day. I want to thank personally Congressman Lynch. I know there are many people involved in getting this accomplished. It's not just one person, but Congressman Lynch spearheaded this in Congress for us. He spearheaded the fact that we're not just going to have a plaque in the post office, that we're actually going to have my father's name right out here where everybody can see. If they're driving down this street or if they're walking into this post office, they're going to see that. And I thought to myself, okay, people are going to ask me, what does this mean to me? What do I think about this? I've always wanted honors such as this, a postage stamp, a future honor of a statue, or this honor here of the post office, to be a way of inspiring people. My father was an inspiration to myself, even though I did not know him. But I know in talking with people and meeting people over the years, how many people's lives he touched that never even met him. So I guess with this, I hope that the new Brockton will be inspired by this post office, this naming of the Rocky Marciano Post Office. And then they can see that my father, who became a great champion, a great citizen of this community, a great human being, a great man, that there's lots of keys to that, but for him, for the things I want to narrow it down to, it comes to two things. It comes to a strong, loving family and a community. My father walked these streets. There's people out there that are walking these streets now that are new to these streets. There's a history here. You can be the next great champion coming out of the city of champions, Brockton, Massachusetts. And I hope this serves as some way of inspiring you to push you over that hump and see the greatness in yourself. Thank you all.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Rocky. Our final family representative is a good postal friend and an excellent liaison. Robert Langway Jr. is Rocky's nephew, the son of Rocky's sister Connie. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Robert Langway.
Thank you, everybody, and good afternoon. I wore a suit this afternoon so that my cousin Rocky and my Uncle Peter or any of my Colombo or Marciano cousins might not think I want to spar this afternoon with them in this ring. I can tell you I would lose. You only have to look at us to understand that. Good afternoon. As Robert said, my name is Bob Langway, and I am the son of Rocky's younger sister, Kunji. My mom, Concetta, was apparently the little sister that Rocky loved to tease, especially because of her name. My aunts and uncles tell me her name, Concetta, was so long and so Italian sounding, when really all she wanted was a little name like her sisters were given, Alice and Betty, but she got Concetta. And my Uncle Rocky apparently loved to tease her endlessly about that at the dinner table of her youth. He made up many names for my mother because she wasn't really happy with her given name. He finally settled, much to her consternation, on the nickname Shush. That's what Rocky called her. He would whisper that to her under her breath at the dinner table, and she would cry out in frustration, and she was the one that would get in trouble with Pa. And Pa would yell out at my mother, and Rocky apparently thought that that was just about the funniest thing that he could do to his middle younger sister. And by the way, my Aunt Alice was very clear to tell me that that was about the meanest thing that she can ever remember her brother doing as a kid. Imagine that. I am but one of 18 of the nephews and nieces of Rocky Marciano, the children of Rocky's brothers and sisters. Most of us, except for the few oldest 2 or 3 cousins, and you know who you are, weren't born when my Uncle Rocky became champion. But they, the older cousins, along with a whole bunch of us that were born in the 1950s and early 1960s, cherish our memories of those very special, magnificent times spent in the company of our Uncle Rocky, usually at my grandmother's house at 168 Dover Street. Those were magical times for us as kids to be in the company of such a great man. But the real way that we've gotten to know our Uncle Rocky, the legend as a person, where it really counts, the way that we got to know him was through the unfiltered words and stories of our late grandparents, of our mothers and fathers who were Rocky's brothers and sisters. And let me tell you, we learned a lot about the man through their words. And so all of my cousins here today, my 2 sisters and my brother, they wanted me to share with you a little bit of what we learned, because it's important to us as his family that here in Brockton, of all places here in Brockton, that he be remembered and celebrated for the man that he was, for the son, the brother, the father, the husband, the uncle, the neighbor, and the loyal friend. We in Brockton, along with the rest of the world, certainly celebrate 49-0. We cherish that singular, magnificent sports legacy. But here in Brockton, I think, we alone celebrate the wonderful qualities that made the champion, that made the family and that made this great community, which nurtured Rocky's toughness and his gentle humility. Our mothers and fathers told my cousins and my siblings and I, and they made very certain that we understood what it meant to be the firstborn child in a first-generation American family, which Rocky, of course, was. That meant foremost that Rocky understood and treasured his Italian heritage, but he also understood that it was he, as the oldest child in this first-generation family, that was the one to extend his hand and to lead the family into the American dream. He understood that very well, that that was his great burden, that that was his great opportunity. He was the one, when the family was young, that oftentimes spoke for the family, because like many first-generation American families, he was the one to first learn English most comfortably. On him was the great burden and great opportunity of setting the best example for his brothers and sisters, of looking after them, making sure that they were being treated well by others, making sure that they were behaving, you've heard especially Peter, and making sure they were helping their parents. And he took that responsibility seriously. Rocky felt a greater responsibility as he got a little older to work and to help his parents out a bit financially, to make it a little easier for them. And later, when he went into the Army about 1943 and he couldn't help out as much at home, he'd always write home to his younger sisters, make sure they did all they could to help out at home while he was gone away. That was very important to Rocky. I hope that you're beginning to get some sense about the inner qualities that Rocky possessed. A very, very deep love of his family, loyalty and devotion to God, to his country, to his community, and to his heritage, modesty, compassion for others. Those were Rocky's hallmarks. These are funny words to be associated with such a tough guy. According to my mom and my aunts and uncles, Aunt Betty, Aunt Alice, and Uncle Sonny, and Uncle Peter, their brother Rocky was a champion in their eyes when his only title was Big Brother Rock. That was his only title. He was a champion in their eyes back then, long, long before he ever laced up a glove. And it didn't end there, believe you me. It continued when he left the family to go into the Army and eventually over to Europe, through his rise to the heavyweight championship and into his short but very meaningful retirement. These inequalities which he possessed, born and nurtured and tested right here in this family, in this community of Brockton, and then on the larger world stage, predetermined that Rocky would be the very, very best at whatever he finally decided to do. And he was, and we all can be too. Finally, let me tell you about this. The area vice president mentioned it a bit a few moments ago, but at one point in my life, having heard all these stories about how wonderful Rocky and Peter and Sonny, my mother's brothers, could do no wrong, I entered law school, and I said to my mother one day, rather capriciously, "Mom, prove it. Prove that your brothers were the greatest brothers. Prove that your brothers were the greatest sons." I think that was in my first year of law school. I said to her, "Show me the evidence." And as the area vice president indicated, my mom certainly did. She dug out this box of letters, all written to her by her brother Rocky, all handwritten. Each one, by the way, using one of those different nicknames, Concetta, Connie, Constance, and even Shuz. The letters begin when Rocky first left the family to go into the Army, and they continued for about 8 or 9 years, right through to the time when, shortly before he won the heavyweight title. Sometimes in those early years when he was in the Army, he'd write her several times a week. Letters scrawled at night after the barrack lights were turned out. Maybe he didn't want the other guys to see that he was writing home to his kid sister, but write he did. And those letters are amazingly tender for a guy who would become known as the Brockton Blockbuster. Always, always asking about his mother and father, worried for them physically and financially, full of concern for his teenage sisters and younger brothers, asking Mom if this sister, Alice, was still going out with that boyfriend, Chi-Chi, the answer was yes, and she still is, and they're both right here. He'd asked my mother whether she'd seen his last girlfriend around Brockton and who she might have been with. Poor guy. Was Mom going to the dances? He'd ask. Did she have enough money to buy a new dress? Was little Peter behaving and keeping himself out of danger? These letters from a man who would become known world over for his toughness, his brutal strength, and his refusal ever to be beaten in the ring are a living testament in his very own hand to his inner self, the real Rocky, the qualities that made him a true champion and a very, very humble man. The very last of those letters that my mom shared with me was a simple postcard. It was written just hours before a professional fight in New York City. Can you just imagine? And she was one of 3 sisters and 2 more brothers. But can you imagine that this guy, hours before a professional fight, was sitting down and writing to his sister, who was unable to be present? It tells you something, doesn't it, about the guy that you might not have known otherwise? That postcard, with a little picture of his hotel in New York on the front, said very simply, Kunji, big fight tonight. Can't wait to see all the gang from Brockton. Wish you were here. Love, Big Brother Rock. These letters, direct in his own hand look into the heart of the champion, are treasures. You know what? My mom only saved them because they were in her brother's handwriting, and she thought it would be disrespectful to throw them away because he had penned them. And I'm telling you, this is when he was 22 years old. She wasn't saving them for posterity. And I'm very worried, as has been said up here on stage today, that in this day of text messages and emails, that we might lose that. We might not have had those letters for us to get to know our uncle. And so let me make an unabashed plug for the United States Post Office. It's still very important to sit down in your own writing, write a letter or a card, put a stamp on it, and mail it to your family and friends who aren't always near. You will never know what that might mean in the future. Thank you so much to the United States Postal Service for giving our family 2 memorable, public, and wonderful opportunities in the last 10 years to celebrate a great, great, and wonderful man and our uncle and brother and father. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Bob. We are honored to have another local legend in the boxing arena as our special guest today. He has spent a lifetime training some of the most talented boxers ever to come out of Brockton. Gotti Petronelli is an American boxing trainer and co-manager. With his brothers Patrick, Petronelli managed and trained Marvin Hagler, who reigned for 6.5 years in the 1980s. His other fighters have included Robbie Sims, Steve Collins, and Kevin McBride. In 1983, the Petronellis received the Al Buck Award for Manager of the Year by the International Boxing Hall of Fame. He and Rocky had planned to become business partners when Gotti was discharged from the Navy, but driving home from the California Post, he was devastated to learn of his friend's death. Like Rocky, Gotti is a personification of perseverance and dedication to the boxing world. His life can be summed up by the title of his favorite book, It Can Be Done. Welcome, Gotti.
I don't know, great to be here, and it's, I'm overwhelmed. And I'll say a few things about Rocky. I've known him from way back, and of course he is the greatest. You know, as a trainer, a manager and trainer, certain things you look for when you start a guy out in boxing. Rocky, he broke every rule in the book.
Let me explain. For a heavyweight, he was 183 pounds, is too small. He's only about an inch or two bigger than me. He didn't have any experience when he started. When he was 25 years old, I believe that's when he started. So if he walked up at my gym, I'd probably say, go out and get a job. But boy, I'll tell you, he's a guy that a professional trainer would ignore and just say, step aside. But I guess he proved myself and God knows how many others that it could be done, and he did it because he had a heart as big as the city of Brockton. He had a punch that could put you to sleep with either hand. When the going got rough, the tough get going, you knock me down, you better keep me down, because when I get up, I'm going to take your head off. This is boxing talk, and I can't say enough good about him because I can talk for hours on him. I won't, but I know when I was at Michigan at the Naval Air Station at Grosse Seal, this was back in, I think it was in 1962. I called my brother Pat, who was my partner. I said, it'd be nice if I could get Rocky Marciano up here, because I had a big boxing show. I was the trainer of the Marines and the Navy on the base, and we were fighting the top dogs in Detroit. I said, it'd be nice if I could get him up here. It'd really put a boost in. And true enough, I flew back here to Weymouth, and we talked to him. He says, I'd love to come up there, Goody. He said, sure. And he did. He came up, gave me a bunch of posters that I put all over the base, and it was a real big boost. He refereed the matches, and we had a great time. And when it was all over, taking him back to the airport, and he says to me, what do you plan to do? When are you getting out? I said, oh, shortly, maybe a year or two. What do you plan to do? I said, well, my first love is boxing. I says, I plan to open up a gym with my brother Pat, I said, why do you ask? He said, how about me going in with you? I said, oh, man, I'd love that. I said, gee, you kidding? I said, that would really be a boost. I'll make the story just a little bit longer. I came out of California, I retired out of California, and I was coming cross country. I'll never forget the time, August 31st, 1969. I think I was in Iowa. Over the car radio, I heard the plane that Rocky was flying in, a private plane, and a passenger crashed, and they both got killed. Boy, I mean, you could have knocked me over with a feather. I stopped by the nearest coffee place, had a cup of coffee, and shook me to no end. I mean, great guy like him, and ending his life, who knows, you never know. But anyway, that's just a few things I'd say about Rocky, but he is the greatest, and you think about Brockton, you think about Rocky Marciano, no matter where you're at, like I say, you say, where you from Brockton, I repeat, oh, that's Rocky Marciano's hometown. So he did put Brockton on its map. Hopefully keep it on its map. Thank you.
Thank you, Goody, and my apologies for goofing the name here in the introduction. Well, none of us would be here today without the support of our next speaker. It was Congressman Stephen Lynch who submitted the bill to rename the Brockton Post Office for World Heavyweight Champion Rocky Marciano. Congressman Lynch was first sworn into the United States Congress in October 2001. The son of Francis Lynch, an ironworker, and Ann Lynch, a postal clerk, Congressman Lynch was born and raised in the public housing projects of South Boston. In 1994, Congressman Lynch was elected to the Massachusetts House of Representatives. After just 14 months in office, he was elected to the Massachusetts State Senate, where he served as the chair of the Joint Committee on Commerce and Labor. In 1999, he earned a master's degree in public administration from Harvard University's John F. Kennedy School of Government. In the 111th Congress, Congressman Lynch is a member of the Financial Services Committee and Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, where he serves as the chairman on the Subcommittee of Federal Workforce, Postal Service, and District of Columbia. Lynch is also a member of the Subcommittee on National Security and Foreign Affairs. Ladies and gentlemen, our keynote speaker today, the Honorable Stephen F. Lynch.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Reverend clergy, Father, my colleagues in government, Senator Tom Kennedy, Representative Mike Brady, my friends and neighbors from Brockton, thank you all for being here. I want to just fill in one gap that has occurred. A little earlier tonight, it feels like tonight, a little earlier today, a young woman from Brockton came out and she sang the national anthem. And something happened that we never really recognized her or said who she was. And I just want to correct that mistake. It was Yara Cardozo from the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council. And she did a wonderful job. I also want to personally thank the Marciano family and the Colombo family for adding what I think really were the keynote addresses here today. And those were the stories, like you just heard from Goody Petronelli and others, about the personal side, the personal life, the inner strengths of Rocky Marciano. Those were I think, the precious comments that can only come from your own family and the people who know you best. I want to thank the United States Postal Service. They have done an outstanding job, and I especially want to thank my three unions, the American Postal Workers Union, the clerks, the Mail Handlers Union, the mail handlers, and also the National Association of Letter Carriers, whose members were here this morning to help us with the Pledge of Allegiance, but who do great work on behalf of the city of Brockton and of the United States of America every single day in this building. The work that was done to get this to fruition, to finally have this post office rededicated in the name of Rocky Marciano, our hero, took a lot of people. And I know Mayor Harrington described his conversation with Charlie Tartaglia down at George's, and that's a fact. That's how this thing got rolling partway. Also, there was another group that was very much involved, and that was the guys from Ring 4 and the Veteran Boxing Association. And there's a whole bunch of these guys, and these men carry on Rocky's life and work and dedication every day. They are a group of veteran boxers who work with young people, who do charitable work, who I think reflect the shining example of Rocky's life. They are boxers themselves, they are warriors, and there's a group of them right over here, and I just want to recognize them. We have world champ Tony DeMarco. Ronaldo Oliveira, where's our Ronaldo? Iron Mike Pusateri, you might not recognize him in a suit. We already heard from Tony Petronelli. Tom Martini, where are you? And Mike and Richie Capiello. Jimmy Birchfield and Nick Barbado. And Mark Casteri's out there somewhere as well. Those are the guys from Ring 4, the Veteran Boxing Association. And something tells me if Rocky was here today, he'd be hanging with his family and that group of guys that I just introduced. But they're the salt of the earth, and they really have had a wonderful. I think the most important work we do on this earth is the work that lives after us, and I think the work that Rocky started here, the best of his example is reflected in his family, of course, and in those gentlemen that I just named. The story of Rocky Marciano has been told in much more vivid color by his own family than I could possibly match. But as has been said here many times, we all know Rocky's record: 49 wins, 43 by knockout, and he remains the only heavyweight champion in boxing to retire undefeated. But Rocky's legacy extends far beyond the boxing ring. His achievement, his skills, and his relentless work ethic. I think more than anything, Rocky's work ethic reflects the city of Brockton. That's what this city is known for people who pull themselves up by their bootstraps, by people who overcome personal challenges, people who keep this city great, and people who leave a legacy to our children. That's the legacy that I think Rocky would be most proud of. He is the personification. He's a shining example of Brockton, certainly, but also I think he's a shining example, his life, of the American dream, what is possible in this country if you put your heart in it and you put your work ethic behind it. He gave a wonderful example for all the young people from Brockton over these many years, and it continues on today. We all hope, I think, in our own lives to leave a lasting impact. I think that we all hope that somehow the work we do on this earth will be meaningful, that we will live our lives in a meaningful cause. And I know in my heart, and I know just from the stories we heard here today, that Rocky Marciano lived his life in such a fashion. He was taken from us far too soon. He was just a young man when he left this world. But look at the impact that his life and the way that he lived it has had on other young people growing up in Brockton. He is still the source of enormous pride here for the city of Brockton. And you hear it everywhere you go. When I offered this resolution on the floor of the House, there was a line of people waiting to speak on its behalf, because they all knew the story of Rocky Marciano. A couple of guys that haven't been mentioned here today, and I have to give due credit. This resolution that we passed, H.R. 1558, House resolution, in memory of Rocky, and to make sure that this post office was named on his behalf, was supported by the entire Massachusetts delegation, all 10 members of Congress. But we could only get it passed through Congress, the House side. We went to another champion of Massachusetts to get it through the Senate. And that gentleman cannot be with us today, although he was as adamant and as strong an advocate of the work here to get this post office named as anybody in this country. And that gentleman's name is Senator Edward M. Kennedy, the senior senator from Massachusetts. God bless you all for coming here today. There's a saying that there's loyalty in remembrance. There's loyalty in remembrance. And the fact that you came out here today speaks volumes. I notice we have one of our men in uniform here. And I want to say that for me, I never served in the armed services, so it's my responsibility to serve those who do serve. And Rocky would have been a hero to me just by the fact that he put on the uniform of this country. That act alone, that act of bravery, that act of selflessness was enough to make him a champion in this country. So God bless you all. God bless the city of Brockton. God bless the United States of America, and God bless our troops. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Lynch. We have a couple presentations to make today. Joining us for the first presentation is State Senator Tom Kennedy. The senator was elected to represent the state in 2008 after serving as state representative, chairman of the Ward 2 Democrat, and serving on the Brockton City Council. Please welcome State Senator Thomas P. Kennedy. Who will be joined by State Representative Mike Brady from the House.
Thank you very much. It is indeed a great day for Brockton, and I'm duly honored and privileged to be part of the speaking group. If I may take a moment to do some personal reflection, because as a lifelong resident of Ward 2, and as a young boy, I used to look out with my pals for Rocky to come down Winthrop Street in his big limousine-type black car, as we would chase the car down the street around the park to the Dover Street homestead. We'd be yelling, "Hey, champ, welcome home, champ. How you doing, champ?" He'd get out of the car, come out and greet each one of us personally. And then he'd dig deep into his pocket and hand out quarters and $50. Let me tell you, that was a small fortune to a young kid in the 1950s. I tried to remember and honor and pay back his largesse to me when, as the newly elected city councilor from Ward 2 in 1978, I was able to, along with the late John Dorgan Sr., the superintendent of playgrounds and parks, and the late Connie Splain, chairman of the Park Recreation Commission, to facilitate the erection of the Rocky Marciano Memorial and James Enger Playground. It's located right behind home plate, the playground that Rocky developed his athletic prowess as a youngster. The memorial is right opposite the Marciano homestead on Dover Street. And Mrs. Marciano would say she'd go out and sit on the front porch, look out and see the memorial, and it would give her great comfort and solace as a grieving mother who would never get over the loss of her firstborn son. Speaking of the Marciano family, I'd like to also make mention of the fondly held, tight-knit Marcianos for their great love, devotion, and support for their world champion son, brother, father, uncle, and cousin. And special note should be made of that unique bond between mother and firstborn son. Mama Marciano, a woman of great faith, would be found whenever Rocky was having a boxing match, not by the radio, not by the TV, but deeply and fervently at prayer at the family parish of St. Patrick's Church. It was her way of supporting and rooting her son to victory. Well, certainly, her prayers were powerful, because as all of us know here today, and the world readily recognizes, Rocky is the only man to capture that coveted crown with an unblemished record. May his memory forever be revered. May God bless the Marciano family, living and dead. And may God bless and keep us all. Thank you.
I want to thank everybody coming out today, and also thank you for being with us with the heat today. I also want to recognize a couple city councilors that were missed earlier. City Councilor Todd Petty and City Council President Tim Cruz. Shanice Byers from the school committee, Antonio Bryan, the Plymouth County Commission. If we missed anyone else, we apologize. Words cannot express the gratitude and honor it is to be up here as a city council representing Ward 2, where Rocky Marciano grew up and came from, and also to fill in honor of Charlie Tattaglia, who was a former city councilor from the area, and Tom Kennedy, a former city councilor, and be a state representative from the city of Brockton, where Rocky came from and born and raised, and what a great honor it is. And no matter where you go in the world, we went to a trip to Ireland, and they're talking about Rocky Marciano. So thank you to the Marciano family for all you've given us by giving us Rocky. There's a citation from the House of Representatives. Be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to the United States Postal Service Rocky Marciano Building in recognition of honoring the legacy of the esteemed late Rocky Marciano, the Brockton blockbuster, and this day, April 26, 2009, dedication of the United States Postal Service building in Brockton in his honor. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses its hope of good fortune and continued success in all endeavors. It's signed by our good friend, State Senator Thomas Kennedy, State Representative Christine Cannon, State Representative Geraldine Creedon, the Speaker of the House, Robert A. DeLeo, and myself, State Representative Michael Brady. Congratulations and thank you again.
Thank you, Tom and Mike. Next presentation will be made by the president of the Brockton Historical Society, Mr. Larry Siskin. Some of you may know him better as lifelong Brockton resident and local attorney, who is the most recent recipient of the Brockton High School Distinguished Alumni Award, an honor bestowed upon the individuals for their personal and professional contributions to the city of Brockton. Mr. Larry Siskin.
Thank you very, very much for those kind words. For the past 10 years, the Brockton Historical Society has awarded great Brocktonians with the coveted Historic Citizen Award for their outstanding achievements both within the city and outside of the city. This year is the 10th award, and it is the first posthumous award that we've ever presented. For myself personally, and as president of the Brockton Historical Society, I am extremely honored to announce that this year's recipient is Rocky Marciano, the world's only undefeated world heavyweight boxing champion. Shoes made Brockton a great city, but Rocky Marciano made Brockton a city of champions. Rocky stories fill the city today, and you've heard many insights as to the character and quality of the man. I have my own personal remembrance. I met Rocky in person one time. I knew him before this incident because he was a customer of my father's shoe store on Legion Parkway. The incident happened when I was 11 years old. Rocky was doing his road work alongside his good friend and trainer, Ali Colombo. And they were working out and jogging through my neighborhood. My neighborhood was Morse Avenue off of West Elm Street. I and a few of my neighborhood friends noticed that there was something going on down West Elm Street. And we were just stationed at the bottom of Morse Avenue, and we were watching two people jogging up towards West Junior High, towards my street. My neighborhood friends started to yell, "There's Rocky! Holy cows, there's Rocky!" We started to cheer. and other people along the roadway. They were stopping, and they were clapping. As Rocky approached, I noticed the string on Rocky's sweatpants apparently had broken, and he was having trouble keeping his pants up. As he came beside me, he looked at me and said, "Hey kid, can you help me?" I said, "Rocky, what would you like?" He said, "Can you get me a safety pin?" Well, I had my little Columbia bike, and I raced up Morse Avenue to my parents' home, ran into the house and said, "Mom, Rocky needs a safety pin." She gave me a safety pin, and back I went. I gave Rocky the safety pin. He put it on his pants. His pants held up, and he said to me, "Thanks, kid," and off he went. I never forgot that story. I think I was 11 years old, and it's as vivid to me today, and I'm now 66, as it was then. You know, I hear that was the closest Rocky ever came to getting caught with his pants down. But with that said, let me get on to the presentation. This is the Brockton Historical Society Historic Citizen and Hall of Fame Award 2009 in honor of Rocky Marciano as undefeated heavyweight boxing champion of the world. He made all of us champions. Thank you, Larry. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry. Larry is not the only individual dedicated to the city of Brockton. And today we would like to recognize not only Larry's efforts, but those of another familiar face in the city and in the boxing world. Many know Charlie Tartaglia as a state boxing commissioner and former city councilor, and as someone who gives selflessly to the community of Brockton. Still more know him as the proprietor of George's Cafe, a local eatery that has served customers for more than 7 decades. Customers like the marvelous Marvin Hagler, Muhammad Ali, and many other noted boxers, sports figures, and politicians. He was a boyhood friend of Rocky and enjoys sharing memories that bring to life the excitement of an era that few of us will ever know. I'm going to ask our senior manager of post office operations, Steve LaChapelle, to come up and make these presentations, and I'm going to ask Larry and Charlie to come up and join him. Steve?
Thanks, Robert. I'm really glad to be here today to join all of you because both the city of Brockton and the boxing world mean a lot to me. As a former postmaster for the city of Brockton, about 3 years ago, I have a lot of remain close ties with many of you out there, and I still maintain an office down at 225 Liberty Street. As far as the boxing world goes, I was fortunate to grow up on Cathedral Camp down in Freetown, Massachusetts, and my father introduced me to a lot of sports when I was young. One of the sports he introduced me to was boxing. We were fortunate enough to have a boxing ring at our home because obviously it was a summer camp. And one of the things I did when I was young, my father would spar with me because he'd get on his knees and I'd be, trying to give him the 1-2. And I always said, well, Dad, we got to be somebody. I was going to be Joe Frazier or Kenny Norton. And what did my father say to me? I said, Dad, you got to be somebody. He kind of thought it was ridiculous, but he said, there's only one boxer I'm going to be, Rocky Marciano. So needless to say, I never beat him. But and my father referenced, and it's funny, I saw the quote in your program. To be a champion requires total commitment of mind and body. There is no second place when they call you a champ. It's because you don't lose. How true that is. I remember my father telling me that years ago, and it was interesting that I saw that in the program today because I think that there's a lot of meaning to that quote, and I know it means a lot to me. I'm proud to give these awards out, and in the interest of time, I'll read one letter, but both letters carry the appreciation of many who recognize your commitment to the city of Brockton and to the memory of the greatest heavyweight champion that ever lived. The letter reads in part, on behalf of the U.S. Postal Service, it gives me great pleasure to present you, Charlie Tartaglia, with this certificate of appreciation for your generosity, leadership, and efforts to rename the Brockton Post Office after Rocky Marciano, the young man from your hometown who became the undefeated heavyweight boxing champion of all time. I would also like to express my heartfelt thanks for your help in making the dedication ceremony today a great success and a welcome addition to the history of Brockton. I recognize your generous contributions of funds, delicious food, the services of your restaurant staff, and the considerable amount of personal time you have provided while serving on this project. As a lifelong Brockton resident, business owner, deputy boxing commissioner since 1995, former city councilman, member of the Massasoit Community College Board of Trustees, board vice president for the Community Cable Channel, and member of the Veterans Community Organizations, too numerous to mention, you have become a highly regarded civic pillar of the community for the community of Brockton. Once again, you've stepped up to the plate and demonstrate your commitment and love for your city, the City of Champions. The U.S. Postal Service and the Marciano family are forever grateful for all you have done to help keep the memory of Rocky alive in the hearts and minds of people all over the world, most especially current and future generations of Brocktonians. Larry? Charlie, congratulations. Hold that up.
Thank you, Steve. Now comes the best part. I'd like to ask the program dignitaries, including Congressman Lynch, Governor Tobin, Vice President Haney, Mayor Harrington, Goody, Peter, Rocky, Bob, Larry, and Charlie, to join me while we unveil the Rocky Marciano Post Office building. Please join me at the rear stage. I'd also like to ask the Brockton firefighters, pipes and drums to accompany this exciting moment with another musical tribute.